Hello, it's Truth So Seeker here. I'm here again with Goddess Ilias.
Yo.
We're back for yet again another podcast because we had a lot of positive feedback on the last podcast we did, and I personally really enjoyed how it went, the last one.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Got to cover a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, we got to cover a lot of the problems with the game, but we're going to shift the focus this time, less away from the many problems with the game, even though there was many, as we were able to make an hour video. We actually had more stuff that we actually skipped over.
Yeah, we got over I'd say about a third.
Half. I think we got like half-ish.
Potentially a half.
Of the stuff we talked about.
Still ain't fixed.
Yeah, well, maybe someday. I mean, they still got time to fix it. Maybe they'll address the problems. But today, we're going to be focusing on the 1v1 competitive community and all the leaders and basically our general thoughts on how they stand. We've divided this tier list into 4 sections. We'd have the top tiers and the high tiers, which I personally think if you're in this category with the leader, you can play as this leader, and you should be able to get decent results against more or less any player, or rather any leader that you're playing against. And we have also the mid and low tiers, where I feel that these characters have something that kind of holds them back from competing with the top tiers. And they can have not the most solid results, basically. So we're going to go ahead here and start with the low tiers. And these leaders in particular, I think, really have... their mechanics don't allow them to compete at all. I think that they just are incapable of it, more or less.
Yeah, like most of them don't have like a crack through or a breakthrough like ability, like a gunship and stuff like that, but...
Or, well, just something that they could use to compete. So let's go ahead and start with Isabel. Now,
oh, good old Isabel.
Isabel. I mean, I do like her. I really do.
I enjoy Isabel, however...
Actually, since the last podcast, if I could just say here, since the last podcast, there were like 3 people that went out and said, Isabel's a good leader. She can do this and this. Right? She's her tanks are much stronger, and her hologram, just to say how I play Isabel, or played her, because I played her during my first 10 placement games of Season 3, with not bad results, 6 and 4, and generally what I decided was her best strat, from my limited experience with her, was you would go something like hologram, heavy metal, then you would go for accelerated assembly to try and get warthogs, and depending on how things went, you would maybe either go accelerated assembly 2 to get more tanks if you didn't see any immediate confrontation, or if you felt that it was going to happen soon, then you could get the best defense, and trying to get tanks and Nightingales like that. I did feel that just going raw tanks and Nightingales didn't quite work, because hunters were too much of a problem, so maybe some kind of mix of snipers in there as well seemed like it worked generally well. But the thing is, and I feel that Isabel could actually work as a leader, but the thing that holds her back is her freaking tanks. They just don't work.
They don't.
They've
fixed the tanks like 4 or 5 times now. They've said, hey, now the tanks fire their canisters. We promise they won't just stop in their tracks and not do anything. We swear that we fixed it.
I've lost games. I have literally lost games to where both of these things have happened. They'll either fire their canisters and 60% miss, or they'll fire their canisters and they won't move. And then they'll just walk up to you and kill you.
Well, it seems like you got lucky, because I've had it so that way they don't fire their canisters and they don't move.
I haven't had that happen, to say the least.
It's awful. I'll tell you, it is awful. I lost 7 tanks like that once. It was awful. I was so upset.
And the thing is with Isabel, and I feel bad that I'm putting her so low, because her opening isn't really that bad, because the hologram can be really deceiving, because not only can you use it to try and... I mean, because of course you could always think, well, they have holograms, so they're just going to make it look like they have more, but you really don't have detect units early on, right?
Oh, that's something we should bring up. Last time in the podcast, we were saying about how her hologram was garbage, because it didn't even work. It does work. You just need a unit that can detect, like, a shield or a cloaking generator and that kind of stuff, and you can tell which one's which.
Oh, you mean like a sensor tower? Or...
No, I mean, well, no. I mean like the cloaking generator that the Banished has. It's their, like, the thing you get after the shield.
But that doesn't detect, that cloaks.
Yeah, I know, but I was just saying, like, something that can detect that stuff.
Oh, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, so, like, a Nightingale or...
a Wolverine.
Probably most practical in the early game would be
Jackrabbit.
Maybe a Jackrabbit drone. But even then,
Does it have to be upgraded?
The drone, the second upgrade, the thing that heals it, that actually gives it the detectability, so it doesn't get it from the start.
Okay, good. That'd be broken.
But it gives Isabel her ability to fight in the opening, and it's unique to her, which is what I really like about her. But the problem comes is that, for example, if you're fighting a cutter,
he's fast.
He's fast, and those ODST I feel just kind of steamroll any opening potential Isabel could have. Because if you're fighting against a good cutter, he's going to hit you hard with infantry in the start. Yeah. And in addition to having the ability to run away from any engagement that doesn't favor him and to force an engagement that favors him is tough to deal with, I think.
Yeah.
I know that Isabel's hologram and heavy metal are very cheap. Like, they're very cheap and they come back pretty fast. So that does work well for her. It's just...
Cutter's UNSC rate is just better.
And even if she gets out of the into the late game, I just don't know if the best defense tanks are enough. And her Ghost in the Machine is crazy expensive, and even now it's still not that good.
It's really not. Like, on paper, it's amazing just to take control of your opponent's army for even any amount of time, but in practice, it's not that good.
It isn't. I've seen, I've had people say very unique circumstances, like, well, they eradication, and I took their army over and put them in it, which that's a unique circumstance, but...
If you're not in that matchup, then it's... That circumstance just isn't there. No. Like, I'd rather get combat salvage before I'd get
I would too, yeah. I think I would generally get it. I would usually get something like hologram, heavy metal, accelerated assembly, then the best defense, and then I would debate between combat salvage and accelerated assembly too, depending on the situation.
Potentially the Mac Blast. I think the Mac Blast is really good.
Yeah, the Mac Blast is, I guess, okay.
Granted, I'd say that even level 1 is good, but level 2 is when it's really good. Level 3 is just a monster.
Well, and I know it sounds weird that we're putting her in low tier, because, like, if her tanks were better, I think I honestly could see her being a mid tier.
Not better. Fixed.
Fixed, yes, fixed. Then I could see her being at least mid tier, but...
Even if they get fixed, there's just not enough going for her in the early game and in the mid game.
I think she almost holds her own in the opening, to be honest.
But
almost.
I don't think it's enough. She needs something else. Honestly, what I think needs to be done with heavy metal is maybe reduce the amount of damage, like the increased damage, but maybe give them a speed buff instead of making them slower. Like, that way they can Isabel can keep up with Cutter, basically, and anybody else, really. I know that's a sensitive point there, because, then you're getting a buff to two things, but again, it is only temporary.
Nah, I still think, if you make...
It's just an idea.
I'm not sure I really like it, at the least. To say the least. But, to move on now to Anders, and of course...
Anders is low tier, by the way. Just
sure you know that. These are all going to be a low tier. That we're saying here. Anders, I've played her. I've played her, for those of you who have seen my channel for a while now, and I still think she's not good. I'm sad to put her here, because from what I saw, from when I played as Anders, I would always try to make use of her ability, her leader point, R&D, which would make upgrades in general cheaper. And of course you would think, okay, you want to just spam out upgrades then, try and make it... Basically, the whole point of the Anders army is I'm going to have less units and less flexibility with the units, but they're going to be much more teched than you. They're going to have a higher tier, and, like, for example, maybe my flamethrowers will have tier 1 over your tier 0, and my marines will probably have grenade throw much before your grenades throw is done. And that's kind of what her argument is, if you would, I guess, argue. And...
Yeah, but it doesn't really work that way.
No, it's okay, but again, like, just... And I notice anytime I keep having this same theme come back, it just tells me that something's broken about this. And it's the fact that the Cutter ODST drop is just going to wreck them.
Basically.
Like, I've seen Cutter ODSTs wreck Rangers. Like, you'll have, like, 5 Rangers, and the ODST squad will just wreck them.
Honestly, I think that they need a nerf. Like,
they've been nerfed, like, 3 times, man.
I'm not talking about their cost. I mean, like, their DPS. Like, that needs... like, if they can kill the anti to them, that's a problem.
Yeah, I could see that being a big problem.
And I mean, if you look at it like this, for 3 ODSTs, it's 800. For 3 Marines, it's 450. 3 Marines.
It is his unique leader ability.
I know, but 3 ODSTs should decimate 6 Marines, and I mean, you're paying more for the 6 Marines versus the 3 ODSTs. Like that shouldn't be a thing, if you ask me, at least.
The fact that we're coming back to this point, I feel like when we actually hit Cutter, it's gonna really hurt him. But
yeah.
But anyway, my point is that Anders, while she does have her abilities and can make her units stronger, I kind of have been feeling that it's just as you go to the mid game and the late game, and again, like her opening is somewhat okay. She can kind of hold her own. I think she goes relatively even with most leaders in the opening, but the increased tier of your units is kind of irrelevant if you don't have any other way to exploit or to try and hinder the opponent's development. And that's what a lot of the top tiers are really good at doing, is either they can develop very rapidly or they can try and reduce the enemy's development. And
Anders is more of like a sit at home and make sure that you can't kill me kind of leader.
Yeah, but at the same time, with that in addition, she doesn't have the ability to develop very fast.
That too.
And that's why I think she's really suffering.
I think R&D should also should do something else for like the expansions or mini bases.
It's
or
like some sort of Atriox or
either
something.
that or like give it like a mini forge ability, something like that. Like,
well, maybe you could make the fortifies cheaper. That way you could buy bases cheaper. That could be a nice way to do it.
That would be nice.
Because that would work towards defense. I could see that being a nice thing to give to her, because right now her upgrades in the field armory aren't reduced, which I think is fair. Like, if you had the ability to get reinforcements cheap and all that stuff cheap, that seems a little bit ridiculous.
Well, you say it seems ridiculous, but as she is now, she needs something. I mean, I'd honestly say give her that and just see what happens. I mean, it's not like it's a permanent thing. I'd say you could make things like that get cheaper.
I mean, to be fair, yeah, I guess giving her the field armory upgrades at half cost and half...
I wouldn't say half. That'd
really?
Be crazy.
You think so?
I'd say whatever it normally is, like maybe cut it off by like a fourth with the first R&D. And then...
Well, I mean, it's only half off with all 3 upgrades.
Oh, it is? Okay, I was going to say like half after just the first.
No.
I was like, what? No.
Clearly you haven't played Anders.
No, and there's a good reason.
Okay.
I mean, the biggest thing she has going for her is really her Kodiaks and Siege turrets dropping the Sentinels like on top of things.
She does have... I do think this is worth mentioning as well. Her Sentinels are very dynamic.
Oh, her actual Sentinels?
Yeah. Because no other leader can build Sentinels, an air unit that is actually offensive in the beginning. But the big problem is they're still kind of crap.
Yeah. They're still like a glass cannon.
Generally,
and that
it's
cannon
not going so out of the way generally to build infantry as either UNSC or Covenant, if it means that you're going to counter Sentinels. So there's no real great advantage to building them other than trying to do hidden runs, which is it's okay, but...
I mean, you could always hit their mini bases, but if you ever get into an engagement, like you need to engage their army, 9 times out of 10, if you're fighting a UNSC, they're going to have Marines. Yeah. And Marines are like infantry kind of counters air, especially at that freaking, that early in the game. I mean, they don't have a lot of health.
They really don't. And I mean, I think their attack's honestly okay. It's at the very least I could see it countering choppers and jackrabbits, but
yeah. Well, back to what you were saying earlier about the how their the tier upgrades and stuff. That really doesn't do anything for her in the mid and late game, because like you're probably going to want to build Kodiaks and stuff like that with her for the most part.
I haven't really. I mean, I know that's of course that was her bread and butter before, but as it is now, I feel like she's more of an aggressive leader, or rather, you have to try and play aggressive as her because.
But like you kind of can't.
You just can't produce fast, and that's the big problem she has. She doesn't actually have a game plan.
Maybe even give her an accelerated assembly. Like that might help her out.
If you're going to combine that with the Kodiaks, I could see that being a thing.
Like, get rid of that. I don't know. I don't even know what she has that's bad. Make her like third
Lotus Mines.
Yeah, like everybody has Lotus Mines. Just listen, developers of Halo Wars 2, just get rid of them. Nobody
or make them better. They need to do a lot more damage, or they just need to like not exist.
Nobody uses them for good reason.
No, I think out of the hundreds of games I've played, I've seen like 2 games where they've made them or used them, and they usually were bad at using them, and they lost anyway. So they were like new people.
Don't use Lotus Mines, kids. You'll lose.
Yeah, it's so bad.
We should probably move on to the next one.
Yeah, I think we should go on to the last leader.
Beautiful man, the man with the bad eyesight, Sergeant Johnson.
Yeah, he's the last guy we put in low tier here because, and this is, I mean, he's still a new leader, so
we're not sure how to play him, but
well, that's just it. We don't know of a way to play him.
Yeah.
And the thing is like his leader point chain just doesn't make sense.
Really doesn't.
There's nothing really that helps him flow properly.
What's his first leader point? It's restoration drones, or what is it?
It's the thing that gives increased building sight to your buildings.
That's not really helpful in the beginning. So I mean, that his beginning's not that good. His second leader point is either a bunker
or a cheaper bunker. Like
basically.
Like the ability to make bunkers cheaper.
So it's either get the bunker or get the ability to make bunkers cheaper.
But you can't make the bunker yet.
Like, so that's dumb. Why? That basically forces you into either getting restoration drones, the advanced buildings, or the farther building sites, or the bunker for your first 2 points. And all of those are kind of bad.
The thing is with the bunker, it's not really that useful because it doesn't have that much health, and like the enemy could just ignore it.
Yep. They just come up, it's like, all right, we're about to get into a big engagement. Drop down the bunker. Marines, get in it. Where are they going? They're running. We did it. No, wait. Well, we're going to lose.
And the thing is like people have said, well, you can drop the bunker near their base and try and work like this, but you can only put 3 units in it. And like early on, you're only going to really be able to put Marines, maybe snipers in it. And
I could see the snipers being good if it's like on a cliff, but even then, they're on a cliff.
I could see you maybe putting a bunker and put 3 snipers in to try and spawn kill infantry that come out of the base.
Yeah, but at that point, we're kind of out of the beginning of the game at that point. Like,
and even then, they could just like not unlock their base and they could just like lock it or something, or even build a turret.
Or like, just bum rush it with a bunch of stuff. I mean,
it doesn't have that much health.
It doesn't, and then once it's done, you just lost 3 snipers, which is basically, 450
generally, if they have enough to kill the bunker, basically everything that's in it is going to die.
Yes.
It's kind of sad. And the thing is like, what else does Johnson have? Like, his late game, being able to purchase building slots cheaper is...
You mean for free?
For free, yeah. That's
now building slot. What is that exactly?
That's just that. Vague. That's the 7 building slots around the base. Like, that's not really...
At that point in the game, for an ultimate leader ability, you should have money to spare it, kind of it. I wouldn't say spare, but...
I don't get the point of it. There's nothing really to be gained from it.
Maybe if it makes, the first tier upgrade free or something like that for your units, or just... I don't know, like... It's not that good.
It isn't. And then, like, there's only one other thing that makes Johnson unique, and that's his mechs, of course.
His mech overcharge, though. Like, where they go super fast and they do more damage for, 7 seconds or something.
His mechs really aren't that good, though.
They're not.
They're not.
They get destroyed by hunters and cyclops.
Like, really fast.
I've seen, 3 choppers take a mech. Like, that's bad. That's bad. That shouldn't be a thing.
Yeah, that's a Tech 2 unit for, Tech 1 units. And I don't really know, you gotta make them stronger or something. And I understand, I do kind of respect the devs for being cautious not to make an OP leader, because I think that's what they're trying to do this time around, is they're like, okay, people really hated Kinsano for her OPness, so...
my personal opinion, I'd rather have the leader be OP than underpowered. Because then at least it's usable. I mean...
But then nobody's going to use any of the other leaders. I think it would break, honestly, apart the community if you have everybody spamming one leader, rushing, and then instantly winning.
Well, just because I say they're OP doesn't mean that they have to rush like Insano. Like, maybe their mid-game's really good. Like,
that would be more reasonable.
Like, I mean, their Tech 2 units are... he has the Mantises. Make them better. Make his synergy with his leader points better. Get rid of a lot of the stupid ones that nobody wants to get. Like, I don't know, give him accelerated assembly. Like, a lot of people would like that, but like they don't have that.
Yeah. And it's honestly... Oh, by the way, his Mac Blast is kind of cool, I guess. It seems better than Isabel's.
Yeah, I like it, because doesn't it heal your own units, too?
It gives some kind of buff. It gives some kind of buff to your own units. And it also gives a debuff to vehicles that it hits.
Plus the initial damage as well, on top of that. But I like his Mac, and honestly, I would say put it into something else, but he really doesn't have anything else to put it into.
Yeah, he just doesn't seem to really have a game. It's the same story with Anders, really. He just doesn't really have a game plan in general. Honestly, out of all the low tiers, I'd say Isabel's the closest to mid tier.
Yeah, I'd hate to say it. I love Isabel, I do.
I do, but...
I love Anders, I do. I don't like Johnson, I really don't.
I don't really. I mean, I like Johnson in the games, but like, he's just
kinda... Johnson's cool. He knows what the ladies like, but I mean... It's just, he's not good in this.
No.
Plus, also, he's cross-eyed.
Yeah, he's cross-eyed.
He needs glasses, too. Fix it.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead now. We're going to move on to the mid-tiers. These leaders, I think, also really can't compete. I feel they almost can compete, but they still are lacking the tools, really, to fight against the high and top tiers. But we're going to go ahead and start here with what will be Forge. And Forge, I mean, I think he was actually top tier back before Season 1, and during Season 1, I think he was like high tier, maybe mid tier.
I'd say during Season 1, I'd say he was good because people didn't know how to play. That's why he was good.
I think that's arguably a good stance. Now, Forge, of course, has rolling eco, basically meaning he will be able to outproduce his opponent in terms of actual units. And that's basically his strongest suit. He has the Kodiak drop, which is really good for basically whenever his developed army reaches the enemy's side, he can instantly deploy Kodiaks. And his veterancy will allow to make up for the lack of tech that they have. Because I'm assuming he's not going to go actually vehicles, or at least right away, but rather he's going to be going infantry, which is what UNSC would prefer to be doing. Where he lacks is that his army is freaking slow.
Like, in my opinion, I think he has the slowest army in the game.
Maybe even slower than Colony.
Yeah, like Colony, like he basically like can do a fat man jog, but like Forge is like crawling on his knees trying. If
you see him coming to your base, and this is where he suffers because when you're fighting a Covenant, like the thing that makes I think Covenant really strong right now. If you notice, out of all the leaders we've actually shown to this point, we actually have no Covenant down here.
Yep.
And I think a big part of this is that the Covenant teleport is such a strong option.
Especially against Forge.
Against Forge. And for them to be able to out-micro them, it's really what makes him suffer. And even as playing as UNSC, I've noticed the same thing. He suffers in actually keeping up with my army, especially Cutter.
Dude. Like, if you're fighting a Cutter, that's basically GG right there.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I mean, his Grizzlies are so slow, and if you don't use his Grizzlies, you don't have any good like breakthrough unit. I mean, I guess you could go Vultures.
Well, the argument that I've seen made for Forge, and I think it is at least semi-decent argument, is that Forge doesn't actually produce Grizzlies, he drops them. He uses the Grizzly Balatin. That way, he'll just drop them right where he needs them.
Yeah, I could see that. But then again,
it's very limiting.
That's like what, 2,500 supplies for
2,000.
2,000? Okay.
It's not as.
That's not actually not that bad. But I mean, that's 2,000. And for you not to have like a force to defend with, if they see that, then you're gonna be forced to drop it on defense, and then you're basically at the same position that you were before.
Yeah, if you need to drop it on defense, that's you need to make sure you can actually push it off, to say the least. Overall, though, I do think Forge can at least fight somewhat better, just because he seems like he's more complete in terms of his game plan than the other leaders. Like, he can actually form more of a strategy. And I think this is a fair placement for him, really.
I would. He has his
accelerated assembly too.
He has that. He has what is it? Rolling Eco 1 and 2. He has heavy metal up to 3, which I think is nice. Although, you don't want to put like 100,000 tons worth of bricks on the back of Grizzlies that are already super slow. But I can see, like, if you get to the base, which most of the time you can't, throw that down. But, yeah.
But, yeah, he seems more complete, is basically what I'm saying. Put that with combat salvage. I can see that being a really nice structure to have.
Also, 11 pop for a Grizzly is a little much, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's...
Like, a Vulture's, 6?
I think it's 7.
That's still crazy. Like, a Vulture can kill, like, a tank and potentially a Grizzly. At the very least, the Vulture can just run away from the Grizzly.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and move on here to the next leader.
Good Forge.
And this is the only other leader we have in the mid-tier, and I know this may make some people a little bit triggered. #triggered.
Don't get angry, please. Don't send us hate mail.
The next leader we're going to talk about here is Kinsano, and I think she's also mid-tier.
Back in Season 1, she was really good, like stupid good.
Even in Season 2, she was strong until her nerf. I think her Flamehogs were still incredibly...
They really were good. They were really good.
They were... endgame... they were building killers, and they fought wraiths, and I personally think won.
Yes.
If you combine them with Nightingales, they win, I think.
I had them fight. I had a whole full pop of hunters and like a couple engineers, and against a full pop of Flamehogs, and I lost. I couldn't fight it.
Yeah, and the thing is Kinsano's real game plan kind of falls apart, because what she really excelled with, of course, before was her ability to go Jackrabbits, heavy hit rush, go into Flame Hogs, and
her whole design was to rush the enemy, keep them down, keep them from expanding. But they kind of took that away from her, which I think needed to happen. Don't get me wrong, but like now that they took away like what she was meant for, now she's
and her Flame Hogs aren't that. I mean, the thing is, Flame Hogs they're really bad, and it's
they're not bad. They're still good.
But it's what she needs to... Like, she has the Flame Hog drop, which was her bread and butter before, and now it's kind of gone. Her Red Line 1 and 2, which was her other bread and butter, which made her vehicles and air permanently faster, that's also kind of gone, and... Well, I mean, it's there, but rather, it's not that useful, I feel.
It's not, because, I mean, for the first one, first of all, you have to put both points into it for it to be even considered useful. First one's just like a minute after it spawns, and it's faster.
I think it's faster and does more damage on deployment.
Well, I mean, say you throw that in there with the rest of your army that's been out for more than a minute. If you send them all across at the same time, which you probably are going to, they're going to go at the speed of the slower unit anyway, because they're going to all try to stick together. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you basically need the second point if you're going to invest points into it at all.
The thing is, though, and I think this is worth noting just because we put her here, I do think she is more developed than everybody else in low tier, like I was the same with Forge. And the same reasoning applies, is that she has a game plan. She has some kind of structure going on. And the only reason I'm putting her so low is because I think that basically everyone above her, can make a game plan that is better, basically.
Yeah, I still think that she has some really good things for her. Like her Inferno's still really good. I personally think
her Heat of Battle
still needs nerf.
Oh, her Heat of Battle. We haven't even touched on Heat of Battle.
Freaking just take that thing out back and shoot it in the head. Like, I don't like that.
Like, at first I wasn't really sure how to deal with that as Cutter, and I understand why, of course, because the whole point of it is that you have two armies go together, two early game armies, so like they're going flamethrowers, you're going flamethrowers. Anytime you get a kill, your army instantly becomes so much stronger. And that was tough to deal with for a while until you learned how to maneuver around them better and to try and avoid engagements properly. And that it's a strong option for her. And if you're going against someone like Anders, who can't respond in the way that, say, Cutter can, then even though Anders has, say, the developed army, she still kind of just gets mowed over by them.
Yeah. Because granted, like we said in the last podcast, this gives her basically tier 3 units temporarily, versus even Anders tier 1 units. Like
it's not
a fight.
No.
And I mean, since they're such low tier units,
not to mention the early deployment.
And you can deploy the Hellbringers, the Hellbringer drop.
Yeah, you could do the Hellbringer as well. And I think that's generally why I think she's at least better than the other leaders, because she can just do more. It's especially, I guess it's potentially worth noting that like everyone before that we've mentioned, I think she can at least go equal, if not better.
Yeah, I'd say. Honestly, I think she's probably better than everybody.
Probably better.
I'd say maybe equal with Forge, but considering she can just outmaneuver him, better.
I could see the rolling eco helping a little bit. But either way, let's go ahead now and move on to the high tier.
Now, these are the guys that you can play and can win with.
I think everyone in this category you can fight. Like, you have a chance to win if you play as these leaders. In general, at least. You would still suffer against the top tiers here, but I think you can at least fight.
Yeah, and even again, like against the top tiers, I think you can still potentially pull out a win.
It's a lot harder, though. You're definitely fighting an uphill battle, though.
Yes, it's scary.
So we're going to go ahead and start with the first leader, which is Shipmaster.
Everybody loves Shipmaster.
Shipmaster he's been all over the place. I remember when Season 1 first came out, everyone considered him the worst leader in the game.
Yep.
So he's got nothing. He's got nothing.
He's terrible.
Terrible leader.
Garbage.
Yeah. And then people started to realize, wait, I can move over here, and then over here, and then over here, and I can move you over here. And then I can win.
And that's a scary thing to have. But basically, his whole game is just teleport, extract, displacement, spirit assault.
Then teleport.
Teleport again.
He's been nerfed with his displacement, and he's still very solid, though, because the thing is his army, or rather his game plan, because I think I should stick with this theme, because this seems like it's actually kind of seeming like a consistent repeat of all the other leaders. Is his game plan is more solid. He has a very solid game plan, which is that his army will be weaker than basically every other leader's army, except maybe Johnson's. But he has the ability to outmaneuver you in such a way that it compensates.
It does.
I personally don't really like the playstyle because I always know that my army is weaker.
I like the playstyle because it kind of feels like you have to be more stealthy about it. If you catch my drift, like you have to be careful. Like, a bad engagement could mean that you're gonna lose, and most of the time you're gonna be in a bad engagement.
Yeah, so you always need to be rerouting your army. I personally don't like that fear, knowing that the enemy's always trying to push through, and you're always just trying to misdirect them or maneuver around them. But that's how he works, and I think it's pretty solid.
It works. Like, I've seen some scary Shipmaster players. Like,
actually,
they're scary.
If you've seen the video that I uploaded yesterday, I actually went against a Shipmaster, and he seems like he's the only leader that can actually make Locust work. Because otherwise, usually people will just rush the Locust down and they'll kill them, and that's all there is to it. But Shipmaster's unique that he can always outmaneuver, and this allows him to go Locust and actually try and make it work. Because, if you're too aggressive, he can just extract, or he can transport and base trade, or he can displace you in base trade.
Like, the name of the game with Shipmaster is to base trade. That's what you want to do. You want to try to get their army out of position and then just displace them when they come back. Mm-hmm. And if you're fighting another Covenant with teleport, you want to you want to go to hit one of their bases. Once they get to you, displace them, and then they teleport back, and then you teleport to one of theirs, and then they're forced to walk.
The late game of the Shipmaster is very strong. And that's another part of what makes him so solid. His game plan from the opening all the way to the end game is solid, and then he has a good end game to top that off. So
yep, he has that tactical gateway and mass cloaking as his ultimate unit.
I've never used mass cloaking.
I've used it once, and it did win me a game. I noticed that they didn't have any detect units in their army. They didn't have any. It was against the Covenant. I think it was against an Atriox. He didn't have any engineers or reavers in his army, and I was like, I have 1 leader point. What should I get? And I was like, I'm gonna get this, and I was able to drop a base because of it, basically.
Okay.
I had 10 seconds of invisible locusts.
Oh.
And he couldn't detect them. That's enough. And then I just was like, all right, I'm just going to teleport to your other base now, because it's Atriox. And he teleported to me, and honestly, at that point, it was basically over. I just displaced him, and GG.
And actually, I think I'm going to go a little out of order with this next one, because you may be thinking now, if Shipmaster is so good, what makes him not as good as the others? And I'm going to actually go ahead and jump into Decimus here and explain why this is almost a hard counter to it. Yeah, the thing about Decimus is he has the ability to rush down the enemy, and this is a very, very critical against Shipmaster in particular.
Especially against those locusts, since they're made out of glass, basically.
Yeah. Decimus will hit you very hard, and really, Shipmaster can't fight, because the way Decimus is structured, he has the Vortex, which is good against infantry and light vehicles.
It's good against everything, honestly.
I think it's more effective against infantry.
It is more effective, but I mean...
It is still, yeah, we
just played a 2v2 game today, where granted it was Vortex level 2, but it almost half health 3 tanks.
Yeah. I
was like, that's actually really good. And plus, since it stuns them and they're not shooting...
Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, the thing is that if Decimus can pull off some rush... I mean, it's true. Okay, yeah, the Shipmaster could just turtle up, go super heavy into defense, 4 turrets, upgrade them. But if you're doing that, it's kind of the same scenario with Season 1. You give up map control.
You don't have the power nodes.
You allow them to have the power nodes. You allow them to expo. And that development advantage is honestly pretty extreme. Especially because once Decimus reaches an endgame, he's actually pretty strong.
Yeah.
His last leader point gives him a buff that makes all of his units permanently faster and do more damage, which is ridiculous.
We should go over all of his buffs. Let's see. His first one is if he gets a kill, he gets a buff and attack. Mm-hmm. His next one is he gets a permanent minor siphon, so that way every time he hits something, he gains health.
Yep.
And then he gets that speed and attack.
And you can get a health siphon on top of that as well.
So, and combine all that, the speed, the damage, plus the vortex, where they get stunned and can't move.
Those are
free kills.
He's a scary aspect in the late game. And the fact that he can rush you down and hinder you and develop himself, I think makes him superior to Shipmaster. At least in a one-on-one engagement. And the thing is, you can apply this rush down tactic to all leaders, basically. It'd be really interesting to see him versus a cutter, to be honest. But
yeah.
I think he's definitely one of the stronger high tiers. Maybe top tier. I'm not sure. I haven't played much Decimus, so I can't say. Although, at least looking at the leaderboards, he's actually not that... he's not really even there. Honestly, I think in the top 50, he might show up 1 or 2 times in the top 50.
I'd say that's because he has a really good opening. Because of his... Every time he gets a kill, he gets a buff on that unit. So it's kind of like the same thing as Consano's Heat of Battle. Not as extreme, granted. But, I mean, if you're going up against, somebody who's going Marines, you're going to get a couple kills quite often.
Yeah.
And then,
That pays off.
And then, his mid-game is alright. He doesn't really have anything grand in the mid-game, but, some other people do. But, end-game, he's, like we said, he's pretty good. So he has a strong opening and ending game.
And even I think his mid-game is all right.
It's not, well, I say it doesn't have anything grand, but it's not
solid.
Like it's bad.
It's solid.
Yeah, it works.
And you see, all this together kind of makes him a pretty solid leader. Like I said, maybe top tier, but there's nobody that's really showing any great results with him to get high on the leaderboards. And the other top tiers are really strong. But we have one more leader, potentially, in the high tier before we go to top tier. So I just want to go ahead and talk about that leader, which is Colony. And Colony, I actually have a question mark next to Colony for high tier, because I actually am not sure if he's actually high tier. He may even be potentially top tier. He was someone I thought was low tier when he first came out.
Yeah.
Not many people played him. Many people just are like, oh, he's a bad leader. But
the Halo Wars 2 leaderboards say otherwise.
Yeah, first off, on the Halo Wars 2 leaderboard, there's actually only 2 really reoccurring leaders, and that's Cutter and Colony. And I haven't played much Colony, but I've seen live streams. I've seen high level gameplay of Colony, so I understand the arguments that they're trying to make. And Colony has a lot of things going for him. First off, I just want to say Hunter's brand. That thing is freaking broken.
Yeah, and that thing needs. I want to say it needs nerf, but
well, the thing is,
I know he doesn't really have anything else like that early in the game.
Actually, I was going to say the opposite of that. Really? I'm starting to see that he has a lot of other options as well.
Like,
first off, I just want to say that Hunter's brand. I just want to finish up on this. Hunter's brand, insane DPS. It basically, first off, you can get it to level 3. It basically kills anything that is Tech 2 unit, or red bars it. And its cooldown is ridiculously short.
It kills any Tech 2 unit. It just straight up kills it. It's sometimes, like, if it's dead center, it'll kill a Tech 3 unit, like a Wraith or a tank. I've seen it. It's dumb.
Yeah, and the fact that you have a low response time as well is really, really scary, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
You always have to be paranoid. I mean, if you have something like a Bulwark or something, you can potentially negate it like that, and I feel like the Bulwark is a really good counter. But if you don't have that, like... And even with Aatrox's Bulwark, the freaking Hunter's brand comes back before Bulwark does.
Yeah, it comes back every minute. Like, it's dumb.
It's so good.
It needs nerfed. It does need nerfed. I hate
to
say it.
It does. And I'm not so afraid to say that because I think the Colony actually has much more to it than just that. Because the thing is, his late game is extremely strong, potentially the best in the game. You can win. I honestly feel that if you are on one base to their 5 and you're at the absolute end game, you win. Because the thing is, at the end game, you have combat repair. That's one thing. And that basically means you are going to have a very difficult time fighting a direct army whenever their army is constantly healing during battle. And, of course, combine that with Hunter's brand, and that's a really scary thing to fight. Yes. And the engineer thing, the engineer swarm, that actually is really good.
It is. I think it's better than a normal heal, like mainly because engineers are great, they're just good. Yeah. But B, because
they even take damage too, because
they do. Like they can. I was about to say that if you have air in your army and you know that they have like Wolverines, Reavers, or Banshees or anything, really. They'll just target those engineers before they target your guys. Well, they could potentially do it. It's basically a bunch of extra units.
Yeah.
It's better than the heal.
But the thing that really convinced me that Colony might be top tier is the devastating host drop. That thing is extremely strong.
It is so good.
It drops 2 Hunters, 2 Wraiths, and 2 Locusts, and gives them vehicle symbiotes.
It gives Reavers too.
It gives Reavers too?
I'm pretty sure it gives 1 Reaver.
But on top of all of that, they all get veteranized as well. Combine that with combat repair, and the fact you can put skitterers on all those units. That army is honestly extremely strong, to the point where they're just mowing through you, and they're constantly rehealing whenever you fight them. Basically, it gets to the point where Colony can heal and DPS so fast that you just can't fight him. And the thing is, and this is why I thought Colony was bad at first, is you can overwhelm him. You should be able to always gain some kind of advantage in space over him. Like you could get more nodes, you could get more bases, you could hold him down a little bit. But the thing is, if you can't finish him off and he gets fully developed, I honestly think that he's really, really hard to stop.
And God forbid you're on a map that he can take an expo easily and defend that.
Yeah, like Sentry would be really good for Colony.
I'd be scared to fight a Colony on Sentry.
Mm-hmm. But I still haven't played this leader enough to really know how he works. I'm just saying, from the feedback that I've been getting from the high level community, and from the results that he's had, I can definitely see him being a top tier leader.
You actually forgot his most OP ability, and that's he can drop walls on the battlefield at any point in time, for free. The free walls. GG. You lose.
Well, I can still see the living barrier being useful, but
I just said it's OP.
But I'm not sure it's that great. It's like, it's a wall. Let's walk around the wall. But at least early on, it wouldn't be that good. I could see it being more useful later on. Like if they're trying to retreat, you could like throw it down behind them and stop them, or maybe even split their army up. Actually, like I guess you could try that.
I mean, if you're going to be able to beat their full army anyway, why not just make it even easier by only fighting half of it? Something you should note is that you can't drop the wall like in an army.
Yeah, I figured you couldn't.
So it'd be all or nothing from what I understand at least, which I don't play Colony, so.
All right. Well, that basically wraps up the high tier, and now we're going to move on to the top tier and potentially what I think is going to be the most controversial, especially because I have a leader here that I think most people would disagree with, and that's Atriox basically.
Good old Atriox, my favorite monkey.
Ironically, I'm the only person that plays Atriox and is in like the top 50. Which is, I managed to get to rank 3 as Atriox on the leaderboard. So I feel that I have at least some position to say that he's a good leader. But I think it's actually kind of ridiculous. I'm like the only Atriox out of the top 50 people. And everyone else is either Cutter or Colony. It's insane. But I let me explain why here. Of course, Atriox is a very solid defensive leader. You see it in the description, so I can say that. But to emphasize, he's the only leader that can really expand against the other top tier leader that I have in this list and get away with it. Everyone else will just get rushed down by Cutter, and they will have no chance. They will just get outright destroyed in their expo. But Atriox is interesting in the fact that he can expand once he gets his second leader point, and the Cutter will really, really struggle to deny it. And even if he can stop it, which I'm not really sure if he can, even if he can't stop it, around like halfway through the attack on the expansion, I'll grab a triple. And I'll start working on that base as well. So even if you can manage to stop the base, I will be able to hold my triple.
Just to throw this out there for those of you that aren't sure, Fortifications 2 basically makes a base 200 supplies and 80 power?
It's 203 supplies, 81 power for an expo.
Yep.
And to upgrade it is 162 power and it takes 12 seconds.
I thought it was 15 seconds.
No, I thought it was... Well, either way, that's still
Yeah, it's still better than the freaking minute or something that
Combine
it takes.
this with the third aspect of Atriox's fortifications, which is it makes turrets cheaper, and
you can upgrade them cheaper.
And you can upgrade cheaper and faster. It's 5 seconds for an upgrade on a turret.
So literally, you just see them hit your base. You already have 2-3 turrets. I'd be like, all right, just gonna instantly upgrade them to whatever they're hitting me with.
As a general rule, if I can get a turret up on my base, then you can't kill the base. I think that's the general rule.
If you can get a turret on your expo, your second or your third, you can't kill it in the beginning because at that point you can upgrade it. If you have engineers out, suicide grunts, whatever, it should live. Yeah,
because the upgrade to the turret, honestly, it increases the damage against the counter that you made much, much stronger, and it actually gives health to the turret as well. So there's, and the thing is, even if you try to aim it down, I'm building another turret, immediately after that, and the engineers are healing.
Because they're only 150 supplied. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
He's very, very strong for defense.
And the point is the thing is that I want to get across as Atriox, and this is the second stage, really, the middle game, is that Atriox, Covenant in general, cannot fight against Cutter. Because his units are too strong and too fast, they will rush you down.
They're really fast.
But the thing is that gives Atriox the fighting chance, I feel, is that he can out expand the Cutter. And this means that he can out base trade the Cutter if he was to try and go in for that. So basically, you would then try and have a defensive mindset and wait for a push. And if they push on you, you would go in for a base trade. This is the ultimate scenario you really want to achieve. So, for example, most maps have 6 bases. If you grab 4, you hold it down when he pushes on 1, you would teleport, or even just be ready to walk to 1, and try and strip or just cheese, or whatever the situation would call for, and work like this. I've done this many times. I've actually had some games against the number 1 ranked player, where, and he's a Cutter main, of course, and... He's done this, and I've been able to pull off several wins against him, and several other Cutter mains. And I think this is a really, really strong strategy, and not many people employ it enough. They really don't. And I think Atriox is actually really underrated.
He really is.
Considering how this next patch is going to come, I'm thinking he might be a little bit stronger, too.
I'm hoping, because I've main Atriox in ones as well.
Oh, I also got to mention that Atriox is chosen. That thing is a beauty.
He is a beast. He is beautiful.
And the fact you can garrison that thing, if you put him in a garrison, he's nearly unkillable. You have to have basically a full army fighting him with nothing reinforced in the Atriox, or the chosen, for him to really be killable.
And then it's like, oh, my chosen's about to die, Bulwark.
You can either bulwark, or you can say jump out of the garrison, teleport. Those two options are pretty solid usually. When you combine all this gives Atriox a really, really solid game plan. And I've mentioned this several times now throughout this podcast, is everyone else below has had some kind of major flaw in their aspects of their play that doesn't allow them to really fight against, say, Cutter or Decimus. And Atriox, I think, can at least put up a fight. Do you think there's anything else we should really...
His leader points. We
haven't talked about his invulnerability stuff.
We went over fortifications, and that's really it. He has Atriox's Bulwark, which can be upgraded 3 times, each time giving it 2 more seconds of invincibility.
The first one is 3 seconds, the second upgrade is 5 seconds, and the third one is 7 seconds of invulnerability.
And the range of the heal gets bigger, it lasts longer, and it heals more.
That's insane.
It's really, really strong. And for that early game, if you don't think Bulwark's gonna work, you have a Suicide Grunt drop. That thing's underrated.
That's basically, and I always used to laugh at that, by the way. I compared it to the Shipmaster drop. And honestly, comparing the two, like, you would think it'd be bad, but that thing has actually saved me several times.
Yeah, it saved my life too.
Because the thing is, it's the point that you actually get it is really interesting. The third point you get, you could either put into Bulwark or the Suicide Grunt. That's normally what you'd put it into.
The Bulwark.
You would normally put it in... You would optimally want to put it in the Bulwark. But if you feel that they're pushing too heavily with Marines or infantry in general, then you can unlock that, and it's a game changer.
You can drop it anywhere. Behind them, in front of them, preferably behind them, and just throw it into them, and bam, they just lost like over half their army. Or
red barred at the very least.
Yep. And then you should be double pumping Sui Grunts at that point anyway off of your bases.
Yeah, and it's a really nice addition, and like I said, it's saved me several times. Although, of course, optimally you would prefer not to get it. The fact that he has it as an option is
nice.
And as an endgame, Atriox even has a really strong endgame. Like I said, he wants to base trade, but his tools are also really strong. Level 3 Bulwark, that's 7 seconds of invulnerability plus a heal. In addition, he has invulnerability, which is, what is it?
That's 7 seconds.
7 seconds. So that's 14 seconds potentially of invulnerability. Then he has eradication on top of all that, which is, I think, really strong of an option. And that just, I think it makes him extremely...
And Dying Breath.
Well... I think
that's something you'd probably want to get later.
It's like an add-on. It's probably one of the last things I would get.
I'd rather have if you don't have Bulwark level 3, eradication, and invulnerability, you should not have Dying Breath. In my opinion.
Probably not. Maybe get Dying Breath before invulnerability if you don't think you can afford it and you think you're going to need Dying Breath. I could see that.
Yeah, okay, that's
because it's pretty expensive. It's 2,000 supply.
But I'd say most scenarios you probably want invulnerability.
Because you're not really going to want to be engaging them unless you really think you can fight them.
Yeah.
And invulnerability would be more useful in that case.
Is there anything else off for Atriox? I feel like I think that's about
his shield. I think it's also just worth mentioning his shield.
Yeah.
The fact that you can get the shield for 301 supply.
I don't get that one, but...
And I think it's 100 power. That's ridiculously good compared to other Covenant. And Fortify. Fortify is cheaper, too.
Yeah, that's something else. Yeah, Fortify. If you get all the Fortify upgrades plus fortifications, it's 50 supplies to make a base.
I think it's 53, actually.
Who cares? That's less than a grunt.
Like, that's...
At that point, you literally should just buy every base you can. Like, it doesn't even matter. It's 50 supplies and, like, 20 power, I think.
I don't know what the power is, but
I'm pretty sure it's 20.
Like, that's insane.
That's cheap. Oh, and also that the fortifies are decreased in time.
That's only the
I think
upgrades.
it's just the first one.
That's only the upgrades. To buy the base is still 60 seconds.
Yeah, that's what I said, the fortifies. It only takes like 30 seconds per. Except maybe the first one. I think the first one takes 20 seconds. I could be wrong on that one, though. Don't quote me on that.
No, I was talking the time it takes to build the base, not the upgrade itself. But yeah, the upgrade for the fortify is much shorter in time as well.
So honestly, like, if you...
And again, combine this with... Remember what I said Atriox's game plan was, is that he wants to base trade.
Yep.
So this just makes his game plan even stronger.
You want a base trade? You have $50 or you have 50 supplies per base. They upgrade faster, cheaper, which is already just...
You can put a shield on shield.
Yes. Yeah.
Like it just flows.
Plus, the fortify makes them harder to kill, which other leaders probably won't have that because, you know, there's not as cheap and as fast as Atriox's. Mm-hmm. So, like, he's really hard to kill just if he goes in for a base trade.
Yep. I think we should move on now to the final leader that we're going to touch on. And if you've been listening to this podcast at all, then you can probably guess who we're going to say here. And that is, of course, Captain James Cutter.
He likes to cut everybody.
He cuts everybody up with his Marines of Death and his fast units. So, what is up with Cutter? Because, as I said, he's all over the leaderboard. The number one player on the leaderboard mains Cutter. And he probably takes up about half of the spots on the top 50 of the leaderboard. And I think for good reason.
Yeah, he's a solid leader. Like
extremely solid.
Yeah, he's great.
He's you notice, and I think it's a really interesting contrast to Atriox, who's been very defensive, and we just explained all of his defensive points. But he's really good for rushdowns, which is it's like, the opposite situation. And basically his Marines are what makes him so incredibly strong. And his leader abilities combined with that, of course.
Yes.
He can rush down due to his UNSC raid 1 and 2. He can cap very quickly. So that basically means he can fight for nodes incredibly strong. Like, as Atriox, when I'm playing, I usually struggle to maintain 2 power nodes. I can usually only hold 1, and even then I'm struggling to hold it.
Depending on the map, like if you're playing on like Bedrock or something like that, like you're not going to be able to hold any of them.
You might be able to hold the 1 directly next to you, but that'd be it.
I've fought some scary cutters, and like it was an uphill battle trying to keep that one right in front of my base. Mm-hmm. Like, I had it for, like, maybe a minute, and then he took it, and I just couldn't get it back for, like, 3 minutes, and then I got it back for, like, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Like,
and this is, of course, this goes with what Cutter excels at. He excels at rushdown. So maps that are small, like Bedrock, are going to very, very favor Cutter.
And even large maps, like, he can get around faster, so, I mean...
I think large maps at least would be better for someone with a Covenant leader, like Teleport, because then they can try to avoid your army.
Yeah, but, like, I mean...
Cutter doesn't necessarily... It doesn't hinder him as much as other leaders. Like, all other UNSC, it's going to hinder them more because their army is slower. But Cutter, he's much faster, so he can compete more. And more than just compete, he can dominate.
Yeah, he really can. That speed alone is like... If you can stay on Tech 1 units for like 80% of the game and like still beat out Tech 2 units, like that's crazy.
Yeah, and I guess this is worth mentioning what Cutter tries to go into. Of course, he tries to rush down you. If you expand, at least as Atriox, I feel Atriox is the only one who can fight for an expansion. Everyone else, he'll just rush down with Marines, maybe flamethrowers, maybe snipers, and you're not going to be able to hold it. You just, as any other leader, you cannot hold it. But the thing is, he'll expand into Tech 2 for Cyclops and Nightingales generally. I think that's a good comp to have Marines, Snipers, Cyclops, Nightingales. I think that's a really good general comp. And there's no real good way for Covenant to deal with that. UNSC as well, even.
Like Cutter's really strong. Like his speed plus that composition, just it loses outright or it beats all the other UNSC's compositions, even if they do the same thing because of the speed.
Yep, and not only the speed, the ODST drop. The ODST drop. That thing is broken. It's been nerfed like 3 times now.
And not where it needs to be nerfed, if you ask me.
Like, they've nerfed the cost, they've nerfed the health. The ODST.
They nerfed the health.
The health was they gave it like 75% of the original health. They used to tank for days.
Oh my god. That's even worse.
So, like, they kill their counters, by the way. ODST, like, will kill 5 rangers, and they'll wreck ghosts and ghosts and choppers. They'll wreck them.
And that shouldn't be. It really shouldn't.
I think they should fight them, because, like, you know...
Yeah, they should fight them, because it's a unit drop that you can't build, and you have to wait for it to come back. But to outright just destroy them...
Just decimate it, and like, in short time. And another thing that makes them OP is their grenade throw.
That's not even a grenade. They throw nukes.
They have many nukes on a base that destroy. Like, if you don't know, ODST can walk up and they can grenade throw onto building slots and they instantly kill them. Yep. So if you have an upgraded generator or an upgraded power extractor, they just kill it.
Boom, dead.
Usually they can kill up to 2 buildings with 1 grenade throw.
So you put it like right in between.
Yeah.
And that's in that situation, say, oh, but wait, what if he's fighting in an engagement? Just drop them down around their army. Like, I've dropped ODSTs on elite rangers, like,
and they stun them too.
There's like, it stuns them, so it's not like they die. There was about 10 to 15 elite rangers, a couple hunters, and a couple other things in there. Just ODST dropped through the mini nukes in between them, and they all got red barred basically. Some of them died, some of them got black barred. And that just made it an easy win, basically.
Oh, I used to laugh at this, by the way, the Cyclops drop. He has a 3-star veteran Cyclops drop he can do. I used to think that was bad whenever I first started playing this game. And I'm like, that's just a Cyclops. What a bad leader ability. But that's honestly, like, ridiculous.
It is really good.
Considering Cyclops become building killers once they're fully upgraded, and combine that with the fact you have 3-star monsters, like, that's...
And the fact that they're fast?
They're fast, too. That's basically asking for a base trade. And this gets really interesting when you fight against Atriox in particular, because both leaders excel at base trading. I think Atriox may excel more if he is set up right, but the fact that they both excel at it, and the Cutters are rushed down in general, like, that's...
Yeah, like...
It's a really good composition for Cutter to have.
Cutter is really, really good.
And that's not the only drops that he has. He has the ODST Assault Group, which from what I've seen in the high-level community, people prefer getting before Gunship. Because that is such a great leader drop.
I'd say it really depends on the situation at hand, but I'd say about 80% of the time you'd probably want the Assault Group. Granted, I'm not a Cutter main, so
well, what I've actually seen
with a grain of salt.
What I've seen from some top-level Cutters that they do, and I think this is really smart, is they'll go in for a base trade with the army they currently have, and then they'll throw the ODST Assault Group, the Cyclops drop, and the ODST group all down on whatever you're trying to base trade with.
And then it dies. Like, it just dies at that point. It's not even a fight.
It's scary, honestly. And, I mean, I don't really know what more you could ask for in a leader. Like, I remember I used to joke about how Kansano was about drops and spam, but honestly, Cutter's ridiculously strong in terms of drops.
That ODST Assault Group does come back pretty slowly. Like, it's like every 4 minutes or something like that. Yeah, it's
a little slow. The Cyclops drop is pretty fast.
Yeah, it comes back like every, I'd say, minute and a half.
Maybe 2 minutes.
ODST drop comes back every, I don't know, would you say 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes?
Maybe 3 minutes. And then you have the Gunship on top of that, which I think is maybe one of the last points he gets. I feel that generally when you get Gunship, that's when you start the base trading. Because at that point you can do it. Like, you can crack through with that. That's his crack through. And it's just really strong.
It really is. And for those of you that don't know, it aims at turrets and shield generators first. Like, anything that would be in a turret slot, that's what dies first.
Well, I think it aims at units first, and then it targets buildings.
I mean, just on a building.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if they walk their army away, it'll target down the turret slots first. There is one exploit that you can do to try and work around this. It'll target anything that you build on the turret slots, so you can actually Q and DQ sensor towers to kind of absorb or tank the damage that they shoot. So that's one tactic you could use to try and negate them in that aspect, but it's still It's still
if you're doing that, then you're not paying attention to your army, basically.
In addition, they will target one, and even if you queue another one, they'll keep targeting the one. So that only works once you've lost all 4 turret slots, basically. Which is kind of bad, if they're thinking it's worth using a gunship on. It is worth mentioning that the gunship is not that great late game, but generally you're going to use it before they have everything fully developed anyway. So it's still usable. It's definitely usable and still really a strong support option. It's really a gunship. It's a support gunship. So
I mean, me and Truth here, we were doing a super turtle the other day, and
yeah.
Like, we were fighting a cutter and a forge, and I was like, dude, I don't want to turtle that cutter because, that's a scary gunship. I don't want to fight that. And then, like, he dropped a gunship, like, oh god, a gunship! It's dead.
It's not, yeah, like, when you have 8+ Reavers, Tech 3,
plus just other stuff that's there, potentially.
They die just ridiculously fast.
Yeah, it's... Honestly, I would say buff the health at that point, but honestly, I think they're fine where it is.
I think they're fine, because they're meant to be a mid to late game support unit, and they're supposed to be a support unit. They're not supposed to kill everything you have.
They should kill everything. They're pelicans with giant machine guns and rocket launchers on them.
I don't know about that.
But, yeah, overall, I'd say Cutter is a great leader.
He's so solid.
Honestly, I think that he might need a nerf. Like,
if anything, nerf the ODSTs, I'd say. I think, honestly, everyone else just kind of needs a buff.
That's what I'm saying, but, like, if they're not going to buff everyone, which, honestly, some leaders, I don't think they can buff properly, like the low tiers we were talking about.
Rip Isabel.
Rip Anders.
Rip Johnson, he's never going to get first.
He can't even see. How's he supposed to fight? But, yeah, I think everybody just needs a buff. Just buff everybody. That's, like, on our low, mid, and even potentially the high tier list.
I think everyone on the high tier and above is, like, okay. I think everyone on mid tier and lower needs something more. Because, like I was saying, everyone on high tier and above, I think, can at least somewhat fight. And everyone on mid tier and below just don't have a chance.
No, definitely mid tier below. They just die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I think that basically wraps up this, I guess, tier list that we have here.
Yeah, just as a, just a reminder here, low tier is Isabel, Anders, Johnson. Mid tier is Forge, Consano. High tier is Shipmaster, Colony, and Decimus. And top tier is Atriox and Cutter.
I do think that Colony could be top tier.
Potentially.
I need to look into that more.
For all of you Colony mains, don't pull out the pitchforks yet.
Yeah, we're not convinced that Colony is a high tier. We think he may be potentially top tier material.
We just haven't touched him. So.
Yeah, so we're not so sure yet. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. I enjoyed sitting down and talking like this.
Yes, it was fun.
I hope you guys will stick around. We'll try and do this maybe once every week or 2 weeks or something, because you guys seem to enjoy the last one. Let me know if you enjoyed this one, and I will see you guys in another one. So take care.